They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis. But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still
Sunny Hostin just experienced the emotional equivalent of a Wi-Fi signal in a cave, completely lost. After Charlie Kirk and Joe Rogan tag-teamed her confidence into dust, she spiraled into full meltdown mode. Tears? Check. Confusion? Absolutely. It was so over the top, even soap operas were taking notes. But what exactly did they say that left Sunny looking like a walking regret? Buckle up and grab your popcorn, because this takedown was so brutal. Even her teleprompter needed a support group. Let's break down the moment that wrecked her.
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men actually voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they...
Sunny Hostin was enjoying her usual week of televised self-congratulation when the universe served her a cosmic 1-2 punch. Politically, Charlie Kirk, Gen Z whisperer in a suit, fueled. By graphs and enough caffeine to power finals week, came swinging. Culturally, Joe Rogan, podcast overlord, casually dismantled her media credibility between musings on elk meat and UFOs. Together, they turned her spotlight into a searchlight for damage control.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here.
Well, it is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested...
She never saw it coming, probably because she was too busy monologuing to a studio audience that treats echo chambers like community service. Enter the first strike, the Charlie Kirk data bomb. It's always something special when a guy takes a break from lecturing at a college with 3 protesters and a blue-haired dog to intellectually vaporize someone on national television without even stepping foot on set. Now that's efficiency.
Nerve of this woman to whom the country has given so much to try to dump on people who didn't go to college. Look at you. Look at your achievements. How do you like the so-called uneducated now, Sunny?
Yeah, and again, by the way, rarely do you get the answer to a question in the question. And her whole question is exactly why there was a rebellion against them.
Yes.
Listen, just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. I always differentiate between knowledge and wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. I mean, or about North African lesbian poetry. Okay, that's fine.
Or Charlie Kirk, never one to hold back what anyone with an economics degree and a shred of pattern recognition is already thinking. Laid out elite media's disconnect with all the grace of a wrecking ball. And who better to embody that out-of-touch cathedral than Sunny Hostin, high priestess of progressive posturing and self-righteous soundbites.
Episode of you when you were on The View, when you were running for president. You got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. And then you actually started winning in the polls. And then the machine started working towards you.
That red hat that says Make America Great Again, might as well just put a on.
Charlie didn't even need to say her name. All he had to do was unpack the overstuffed suitcase of bad takes that fly first class on The View. Talking points like voter suppression is everywhere, conservatives hate minorities, or the fan favorite, Republicans want to drag us back to 1952. Then, in a move no studio audience would dare attempt, he did the unthinkable. He brought receipts. Real numbers. The kind that bounce off Sunny's opinions like Nerf darts on concrete. Data showing minority voters shifting toward conservatism. Because, shocker, they don't enjoy being condescended to by millionaires who pretend to know what a gallon of milk costs. Charlie dug in deeper, highlighting the absurdity of TV millionaires. Lamenting oppression from their Manhattan balconies, almond milk lattes in hand, insisting the system is rigged. The only thing rigged, that applause sign, then came the elitism nuke. Sunny, who holds a permanent spot in the media's VIP lounge, unintentionally became the face of a pundit class that thinks having a producer in your earpiece qualifies you to preach moral truths. Charlie exposed how these media elites confuse their tax bracket with moral authority, like taking budgeting advice from someone who thinks Whole Foods is a discount store.
Some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this, and as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it, but we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last.
While Charlie Kirk's commentary was methodical, surgical even, it didn't go after Sunny's character, fashion sense, or intellect. No, he struck at the soft underbelly of it all. Credibility. That illusion that Sunny's brand of polished progressivism somehow connects to everyday reality. If this were a boxing match, the towel would have hit the mat by now. But that was just round one. Enter Joe Rogan, the intellectual barroom bouncer of America. He didn't stroll in with a suit or a stack of charts. He showed up in the cultural octagon, probably shirtless, armed with the tools of the everyman, clarity and casual obliteration. His weapon of choice? Common sense, which, in the elite media circles Sunny floats through, is basically a controlled substance. Rogan's takedown didn't need a thesis or a panel discussion. It came wrapped in jokes and delivered with a smirk, cutting deeper than 1,000 think pieces. While Charlie dismantled the ideology, Joe targeted the absurdity of the medium itself. Talk shows that masquerade as journalism, but function more like group therapy for the self-satisfied. He exposed media virtue signaling with the ease of someone pointing out that the emperor not only has no clothes, but is currently moderating a panel on modesty and beachwear.
Get it? I also hate Joy Behar, so I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird, so I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show? If the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of...
Rogan, with his signature mix of gym locker room wisdom and podcast philosopher flair, posed a bigger question. How did media figures like Sunny become cultural gatekeepers in the first place? While she clutches pearls over trending hashtags, Rogan questions the entire foundation of her persona. A host who turns every issue into a personal anecdote while claiming to speak for the masses. He contrasted that with his own world, raw conversations with people who've actually lived through crisis, made tough calls, and didn't run their thoughts past a publicist. The result? A brutal juxtaposition. On one side, you have media personalities who talk about pain, poverty, and politics like it's a ride at an ideological theme park. On the other, people who live it, question it, and, heaven forbid, laugh at it. Rogan didn't need to name names. That's the art of a perfect roast. When it lands so hard, the target flinches without being mentioned. He tore into the culture of daytime talk shows as echo chambers for the elite, where real-world struggles are filtered through layers of PR-friendly sound bites. Where Charlie Kirk used data, Rogan used deadpan. While Charlie exposed the disconnect, with numbers, Joe mocked the entire charade, and the impact was the same. Sunny, whose persona thrives on being unchallenged, suddenly looked like a parody of herself.
Get people thinking, like, if you could stop Hitler by any means necessary, wouldn't you stop Hitler? And so they equate Donald Trump with Hitler and go, here you go, this is our modern Hitler. Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it, because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said it's
on
And here's where it gets almost poetic. Two men, wildly different in style, tone, and approach, accidentally syncing up like a lunar eclipse of reckoning. Neither knew the other was coming, yet together they unraveled a narrative that had been polished, rehearsed, and syndicated for years. Charlie Kirk brought the PowerPoint, Joe Rogan brought the punchlines. And together they didn't just question Sunny Hostin's credibility, they torched the set, flipped the couch, and walked out without even calling an Uber. Then came the internet. Oh, the gloriously petty internet, when a TV host's worldview gets wrecked from both an academic podium and a podcast mic. The memes practically write themselves. Reaction videos flooded YouTube like celebrity apologies on damage control. Twitter lit up with threads comparing Kirk's breakdown to a thesis defense and Rogan's takedown to a comedy roast. TikTok creators began performing both sides like it was Shakespeare in sweatpants. Sunny didn't respond, and honestly, how could she? How do you clap back at a takedown so thorough that neither man even said your name? This wasn't a conversation. It wasn't a debate. It was a cosmic audit, and the receipts weren't in her favor. Even her defenders were stuck in neutral. The critiques weren't personal. They weren't about her looks or tone. They were about the one thing she couldn't PR spin: the emptiness behind a persona built on network-funded righteousness.
View has to be, if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin.
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person, and what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
Meanwhile, Charlie's clip is now being shown in high school debate clubs as a masterclass in dismantling someone without ever raising your voice. Joe's podcast moment? It's clocking replay numbers that probably have Spotify execs high-fiving in boardrooms. And Sunny? She's trending, but not the flattering kind. More like the please change the subject before we end up with a sequel kind of trending. It's rare when political precision and cultural instinct align so seamlessly to obliterate a single narrative. Rarer still when it happens without venom, confrontation, or even mentioning a name. Charlie Kirk and Joe Rogan didn't take down Sunny Hostin by calling her out. They did it by calling out the world she embodies. A world where slogans substitute for thought, applause drowns out reality, and performative outrage is treated like gospel. They made that world look exactly like what it is, a glitter-coated echo chamber with a superiority complex. And in doing so, they didn't just expose one over-polished TV persona, they peeled the mask off an entire class of media pundits whose only real qualification is standing on the right set, at the right time, with the right moral panic locked and loaded. Same target, different weapons. It was like sending a drone strike and a bar fight to the same address, and still leveling the building.